We've got it. Come on, Nottingham. 17 teams, 60 athletes, some of the best in the world.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Accenture British Triathlon Mixed Relay Cup here in Nottingham. It's an absolutely fabulous day for it. The weather is good. It's not too hot. It's just about right. A little bit of movement in the river earlier on, but that seems to have calmed down. They're saying around 2 o'clock. So we're looking forward to a great, exciting race. It's a new format, a relatively new format. It did appear in the Commonwealth Games back in 2014. And it has been accepted into the Olympic Games for 2020. A mixed relay, 2 men, 2 women, very, very short distances, and we are looking forward to a very, very exciting afternoon. Alongside me in the commentary box, a great, great triathlete, Lucy Gossage, and we're going to be getting Lucy's ideas on how this is going to progress in a very short time. Well, here we go with our top-class lineup. 2 teams from Leeds, Leeds 1, Leeds 2, wearing number 3, Japan. 4, Canada, wearing 5, Loughborough 1, 6 are Cardiff, 7, Stirling, up there in Scotland. Great Britain under 23, wearing 8, Team 9, Australia, Team 10, London. And in the London team, we have a South African Olympian, Gillian Saunders. Team 11, Loughborough 2, Team 12, Stirling 2. The Wales under-23 team wear 13. Team 14 is Bath, 15, Locals Nottingham. The Great Britain Juniors wear 16. And rounding us off, wearing number 17, Germany. Well, we're going to introduce our individual athletes. We're going to hand over to my very good friend, John Levison, on the public address system.
Introducing your teams and athletes. Team 17, representing Germany, Marie Horn, Per Sonksen, Nina Aim, and Gabriel Algaya. Team 16, it's the GB Juniors. Kate Waugh, Dan Slater, Lizzie Hood, and Matt Willis. Team 15, representing Nottingham, Libby Coleman, Jimmy Kershaw, Nixie Turner, Connor Bentley. Team 14 will be representing Bath. Megan MacDonald, Will Crudgington, Ellie Twentyman, Alex Chandler-Main. Team 13, Wales under-23, Izzy Morris, Liam Lloyd, Abby Williams, and Derry Stewart. Team 12, Stirling 2, Sophia Green, Guy Evans Haggerty, Natalie Milne, Cameron Main. Team 11, it's Loughborough 2, Olivia Matthias, Barclay Izzard, Sophie Alden, and James Teagle. Team 10 from London, Gillian Saunders, Anthony Haynes, Freya Thompson, and Luke Penny. Team 9, all the way from Australia, Jazz Hedgeland, Matt Hauser, Jessica Claxton, and Lorcan Redmond. Team number 8, Great Britain under 23, Sean Rainsley, Callum Johnson, Sarah Hodgson, and Jordan Hull. Team 7, Sterling Team 1, Iona Miller, Mark Austin, Julie Nimmo, and Fergus Roberts. Team 6, proudly representing Cardiff, Jenny Manners, Adam Bowden, Zoe Thomas, and Yestin Harrett. Team 5, Loughborough 1, Sophie Caldwell, Chris Perham, Jodie Stimpson, and Ben Dykstra. Team 4, all the way from Canada, Joanna Brown, Matthew Sharp, Paula Finlay, Jeremy Briand. Team number 3 from Japan, Fuka Seiga, Ryotsuki Mayada, Minami Kubono, and Koki Yamamoto. Team number 2, it is Leeds 2, Non-Stanford, Gordon Benson, Lucy Hall, and Mark Buckingham. And team number 1, it is Leeds number 1. They are Georgia Taylor Brown, Aaron Royal, Jess Learmonth, and Tom Bishop. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the 17 teams, the 68 triathlon legends that are about to give us around about an hour and 25 minutes, maybe a little bit longer of high energy.
Just having a run through our individuals making up all the teams. Let's just remind you of the team starting. Leeds 1 and Leeds 2, wear 1 and 2. Japan, wear 3. Canada 4. Loughborough 1, wear 5. Number 6 is Cardiff. Sterling 1, 7. Great Britain under 23 are Team 8. Team 9, Australia. Team 10 are London. And our remaining 7 teams, team number 11, Loughborough 2. Sterling 2 wears 12, Wales under 23, 13, 14 Bath, locals Nottingham wear 15, Great Britain Junior 16, and again rounding us out, team number 17, Germany. Well, this is our map today. We had the very, very short swim. We're currently on the yellow indicating the bike section. 2 laps, 7.5 kilometres, and into now, following through on the red line, 1.5 kilometres of running. Athletes come in, they'll be handing over to their second athlete, and third and fourth. And now the first leg, our first starters now, that it's going to be a deep water start. Deep water start, and we have just over a minute until we get underway. Athletes massing now. Just a little view of Non-Stanford there. talking to Non a little bit earlier, she's so excited to be actually racing again. We've had quite a few illnesses and injuries with our Great Britain top triathletes recently. Jodie Stimpson also, you know, Jodie's going later on. She's athlete number 3, and she goes. But very interesting talking about the actual makeup of that. And the teams will tend to put a strong swimmer in initially because they need to break away. And maybe the biker would be the strongest biker likely to go in 3rd position. Of course, the format female, male, female, male. I said earlier, I've got delighted to have alongside me experienced triathlete, experienced ultra distance, long distance triathlete, Lucy Gossage. Lucy, it's just fantastic this, isn't it? I mean, the way that triathlon has developed over the years, and we've got the events now from 20 minutes each for these athletes up to 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours of the distances that you're most experienced in.
Oh, this is fantastic. I mean, I'm Nottingham born and bred, and to have an event like this on our doorstep is just absolutely brilliant for Nottingham. It's definitely a great spectator sport. It's going to be fast, furious, exciting. There'll be crashes. There'll be, I'm sure the athletes on the start line are probably more nervous for this than they would be for an individual event. Racing for a team, I guess everything is on the line.
Absolutely, and you talked about you being a Nottingham girl. Isn't it lovely that the race organiser in Hamilton, he was actually brought up in a house just the other side of the river from where we're doing our commentary, and he said, you know, from the age of about 3 till 18, this was his playground. So I mean, we talk about a dream come true. For Ian, I guess this really must be a dream come true to follow that through from being a young man. He was of course a very, very good triathlete himself, and now the race organiser, and that's his house I can see in the background. Well, what a fabulous day for him.
Yeah, I think the great thing about triathlon is you enter one as a challenge, and who knows where it will take you. Everyone learns new things and discovers new things when they set themselves on that first start line.
Absolutely. So just see just our last couple of triathletes making their way over to this deep water start. Just to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, it's a 300-metre swim. Really is going to be fast and furious. I think around 3:15, 3:20 probable finish time. We'll see what happens there. Maybe a few seconds later. We said that the water conditions are excellent today. You can see maybe a little bit of that swell just moving the swimmers down. And if it is stronger than we first appreciate at the moment, that will have an effect, I guess, on the weaker swimmers.
And these athletes are going to be going flat out. We're talking can't breathe, can't think, absolutely everything they've got. It's so short, it's going to hurt.
And we are underway with our 300 metre swim, and just looking there, Lucy, at just the absolute fast turnover of the stroke. I think we've got used looking at some of the World Triathlon Series races that the start can be fast and furious, and then the stroke just lengthens out. But look at this now, it really is hell for leather out there. Let's get to the front and let's stay at the front.
Yeah, so I suspect a lot of the teams will have put their stronger swimmers in, because then they'll benefit from being able to draft from a little bit of a pack on the bike. But at 300 metres, it's so much shorter, and they will really be gunning it.
Absolutely, and I think you've just described that, particularly with Loughborough 1. They've chosen to go with Sophie Caldwell as their number 1 athlete, and they've got Jodie Stimpson, who is of course a 2-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist, but perhaps is not in the best form of her life in swimming. She's coming back from injury, so they're choosing to put her off 3rd. So I think you've identified that absolutely perfectly. Go for the strongest swimmer to go on first leg.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the teams have got some younger athletes in it, and I think their strategy will be literally get in the race, stay in the race as long as they can, and then at the end hang on and just see where you are. It's a lot easier to race hard if you're in the race than if you're way behind.
Absolutely, and just looking at our youngsters there, and we're racing for Leeds 1, going off in this first leg is Georgia Taylor-Brown. Oh, we've got, sorry for that, it's Sophie Caldwell certainly there in 2nd place.
So I remember Sophie from years ago, and the Nottingham guys said, yeah, there's this kid who's going to turn into something. She's certainly turning into something. It looked like it was a little bit of a battle around that first buoy, certainly with everyone still grouped together.
So just confirming Sophie Caldwell right at the front there, and alongside her from Japan, it's Fuka Seiga.
So interestingly, I think a lot of the juniors, the younger athletes, their races are actually very short, so they're more used to this short, fast, furious racing than the older athletes who are, whose standard effort is a 2-hour Olympic distance race with a 10k run.
I absolutely agree. I think almost like this mystique, if you like, of triathlon way back. It was almost like the longer the race, the better. And of course, we still see that now. But hasn't it just progressed that we do have the races right the way through? And as you say, with the system within British Triathlon Federation, with our youngsters racing a 100-metre swim, then gradually moving up so they can get into that. Well, right at the front of the head of the field, we can see what's happening there. It is Sager still going along with Sophie Caldwell, just breathing under that left arm, looking through. Japan perhaps just heading it out, but ready. It's going to be very few seconds. I mean, goodness me, first discipline, we're used to be watching that 1500-metre swim for 16, 17, 18 minutes, and now we're out in just over 3 minutes. Look at this. This really has been a phenomenal swim by the leaders coming through.
I think people sometimes don't realise how good these athletes are. If you compare them to kind of solo swimmers, they really would be right up there.
Absolutely, and of course traditionally triathlon has attracted the experts from each of the 3 individual disciplines. Perhaps they've not quite made it. Well, leading out is Sager from Japan.
You see Ali Brownlee there watching. I'm sure he'd rather be there racing than standing as a spectator.
Well, Sager leading out. She's just 18 years old, and Japan are already focusing, if we can believe what we're hearing from out of Japanese camp, we're already focusing on the 2020 Olympic Games. So Japan leads, Loughborough 1 in second, Great Britain under 23, good performance just in front of Loughborough 2, then Cardiff, another good performance, and our juniors, Great Britain juniors up there in 6th place, Leeds 2 in 7th place.
That transition must have been pretty hectic, I imagine. I imagine that's just as hard as the swim.
So coming through now, just heading it out, Australia 14th, Sterling 2, then Germany, and I guess our host Nottingham just at the rear of the field at the moment.
So obviously it's drafting, so they can benefit from riding around in a pack, which certainly makes things interesting. If you've been dropped from the swim, you're going to have a much harder effort doing a solo bike.
Absolutely, and that's why it is critical just on the very first strokes of the swim, just to get out there, get that position. And we can see even at this very early stage that we're just really spreading out now. They're going to be looking to try to catch to the front, but I guess in a way, Lucy, perhaps getting in the pack, perhaps getting in the draft situation, would it be maybe a little bit less important, because it is absolutely flat out, isn't it? And we're not looking to really save any energy at all for the later stages of each discipline.
It is, but I guess the key is that if you're a weaker biker, then being in a pack might mean that you can go that much quicker.
Absolutely.
So the weaker bikers might be able to hang on to a pack while they'd lose quite a lot of time on their own.
Well, we seem to have a breakaway forming. We've got, it was 3 athletes, and now we've got 4 athletes who've joined. And just looking down, and they have made a significant move away from the remaining 13 teams. Now we can see that chase pack, and let's see if they're going to be working hard enough together. A few more there, if they can really work as a group to try to catch through. 1, 2, 3, 4, barely put a space between them as they come through. Remember, of course, just 7.5 kilometres. Very short bike discipline.
Yeah, I imagine it's quite hard to get an effective working group going over such a short distance. These guys look like they're all going to join together into one group, or certainly not have significant gaps at the end of it.
Absolutely, that I have to say that does surprise me a little. I thought with a working group of 4 at the front, maybe they could really get themselves together. But it seems that chase group have put the hammer down and going through. Third group coming through as well, and really not too far behind.
The Japanese girl, Fuka Sager, she's doing a lot of work on the front. Interesting to see her taking a drink over such a short race. I guess it just shows exactly how hard she's working, and obviously it is quite warm out here.
Very interesting, if, as we said earlier, Japan really focusing already on the 2020 Olympic Games, and I think they're looking at relay specialists, very short distance specialists, and that's interesting as well, because triathlon traditionally it's been maybe people working on sprint and Olympic distance and then moving up. And now we have a real split, and I guess that Olympic acceptance, which we had in Sydney in 2000, made it almost a real sport viewed by everybody else. And now we're getting the relay in, even more we are being accepted in the mainstream of sport.
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, I think what's interesting is that the same athletes have to do the Olympic distance race and the relays. So you could get some federations just choosing pure relay specialists, ignoring the Olympic distance racing and just saying, actually, we want a gun for a relay medal.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Well, at the front now, that chase pack did join, in fact. So now we have a group of 11 at the front, and just 6 teams who haven't made the cut at the moment. Just looking back down the field, and it does seem to be a significant gap already. Remember, again, ladies and gentlemen, it is just 7.5 kilometres on this. Just a little bit tentative going around that sharp turn. That's the last thing we want to see. We did, in fact, as our athletes were going through on an earlier warm-up, we did have a couple of mishaps, so I'm sure they will have learned from that, just making sure that nothing untoward happens on the tight turns.
Yeah, there's some big gaps, aren't there? I mean, the second route's quite a long way back over such a short course.
And we're just seeing up on the screen, there's a 10-second penalty for Sterling too. Now, with the 10-second penalty in the relay format, that 10-second penalty can be served by any of the athletes. It doesn't necessarily have to be the athlete going on the first leg, as we are seeing now. And that makes for interesting conjecture as well, doesn't it? Remembering back to Johnny Brownlee, of course, in the 2012 Olympic Games when he had that penalty to serve on the run.
Yeah, I think most of the teams actually would probably choose to take that penalty right at the end of the race so that they stay in the race as long as possible.
Certainly. Well, we're still that group working away, and it really is power housing down there. Non-Stanford, how lovely to see Non-Stanford back racing. Talking to her earlier, and she said she's really delighted, she's missed it so much, and looks to be in good form on this short distance format.
Yeah, Non must be absolutely delighted to be back racing, and in many ways I guess this is the perfect welcome back. It's short, it's sweet, she gets to practice all the transitions and all the things that are really important that you get a bit rusty with if you've had some time out with injury.
Well, still with this pack of 11, perhaps a little bit of sitting up now, looking around, quite content to let somebody else be leading through. We've got, now we had the leader looking back, and all of a sudden, not too far to go till we get into the cycle to run transition, and we have got an attempt at a breakaway, but very, very quickly covered.
I guess there's definitely an advantage to, well, they're just coming through the grandstand, great support there, but there's definitely an advantage to being on the front when you come into transition, avoid any risk of crashes.
It certainly is, just to gain a few seconds. It's always looking back, just to remember some of the guys who really were the specialists, just speeding up as they went into transition. Everybody else is just slowing down a bit, making sure that their feet are clear. And we've got the braver athletes, I think that's the correct word, saying brave, who would actually accelerate going in and be over 20 miles an hour as they're attempting the dismount from the bike. But it worked. If you were confident, it gained those few seconds.
And the support here looks incredible. These guys are going to have cheers all the way down the route. It's, I think we're lucky we've got the sunny weather, but Nottingham certainly come out in force.
Well, another attempt at a breakaway, very quickly covered. 3 athletes trying to get away, and then straight to the front. And no, that's Joanna Brown from Canada, and she has really come through in the latter half of this season, picking up top 5 places on the World Triathlon Series races. A real one to look for the future for Canada.
So interesting, some of them have got tri-bars, some of them haven't. I know Flora Duffy, who's been winning most of the World Triathlon Series, has been experimenting with tri-bars this year. They kind of went out of fashion.
I love watching Flora Duffy race. She commits from the very first stroke. She works on the bike. People are happy just to be able to stay with her, and her running has improved over the last 2 winters so much. Well, we are not too far away from transition, at all. We've had a couple of attempts at the breakaway, the final turn, and no one's managed to get away. Very, very tight going around there. And a little bit of caution at the back. Now we're looking to have to accelerate our base. And of course, that deceleration going into the turn can really put you at a disadvantage when you're trying to accelerate coming back out.
Yeah, it's much easier to be at the front of a group. If you're at the back, you have to put in much bigger surges. And these guys will practice cornering. They'll practice on tracks, and particularly the juniors. They're much better at it than the long course specialists, who really are far less competent at handling bikes with dead turns and things.
Well, Joanna Brown, having done a lot of the work at the front, really picking the pace up, seems to be content now just to be dropping back a little bit. Sophie Coldwell back at the front, and now we've got the Japanese athlete who led out the swim back in there. Fuka Seiga goes to the front again, so really putting that commitment into to what we're hearing that the Japanese teams are working for 3 years hence in Tokyo.
Yeah, she's been on the front a lot. She's doing a lot of work. It's definitely not scared to commit. I really like seeing this. It's great to see brave athletes.
Well, brave athletes there. That's one of our youngsters, Olivia Matthias, wearing number 11. So he's just 18 years old, and she's actually just around the corner from Newark, just outside Nottingham. So having a big performance on that. Now, can she hold it together on the run?
The younger athletes must be so excited to be part of this, particularly those who haven't been part of a televised race. It must be real shivers down the spine, I imagine.
And I think it's also the no fear element. They've been used to racing over the short distance. They know what it's like to be absolutely lung bursting and to commit. We've got another attempt at a breakaway. I think that's Joanna Brown who's trying to move away. Let's see if we can just see the team uniform. Yes, that's Joanna looking back, but no real easy way of getting away. It needs to be a full commitment to put your head down and to try and break away, not just for 10 seconds, 20, 30 seconds, but just to say, right, if I'm going to commit, I'm going to go for it for the whole time. We've had a few attempts at attacking off the front, but it hasn't worked. And now it seems that we have a little bit of slowing down in preparation for the final discipline of the run.
Yeah, they'll be starting to think about triathlon, about the transition. There's a lot that can go wrong there, and they're going to be really focused on making sure that they keep it clean. No penalties, no crashes, nothing silly.
Well, interesting that looking at some of our athletes in the pack behind Joanna are already getting their shoes loosened, getting their feet out of the shoes so they can make that quick transition. And Joanna, who's been leading, hasn't yet gone down to loosen her shoes. So I hope, feeling very confident that she can do it just in the last few seconds before transition. But still, big effort from Joanna at the very front, and looking to get a good head start for Canada. She's still got the 1.5 kilometre run, and then we see the real excitement of this mixed relay format. And now we get ready, all our athletes getting ready, leaning down. Even more care needed here, of course. It's hopefully that they don't need to look down. Non-Stanford moving up as well, looking confident. I'm sure she's delighted to be in this good, strong position. And I wonder if she's going to try to get right to the front to take a couple of seconds into the run discipline.
And this run is so short. The bike, if anything, will have been the only bit of breathing space they'll have. This run is going to be fast and furious. Non-Stanford coming in first. What a brilliant.
Well, very close together. Just looking down, I don't think anybody's of these 11 teams. We've got that split, of course, the 11 getting away from the 6. But apart from that, nothing moving out. So focusing on the lady who's done so much work, Fuka Seiga going out. But we are away with Non-Stanford and Sophie Caldwell. So I must say, it's Great Britain 1 and 2, used to saying that in the international events. But isn't it great to see one of our youngsters, Sophie, who's come through so well over the last few years, to see Non back. So Leeds leading out, just running down. Cardiff, good position in 6th place. London in 8th. Then Loughborough 2, 9th. Great Britain Juniors in 10th. And rounding out that lead pack 11. And we've got a gap of just over half a minute. Both the Sterling teams coming in together. And then Wales under 23. Surprisingly for me, Australia back in 15th place, followed by Nottingham and Germany.
See Kate Woff actually at the front with Non. She'll be delighted. Kate Woff, one of the GB juniors.
That's sensational, isn't it, for Kate? Well done, Kate. That's very impressive indeed.
Remember, the juniors are used to racing short distances. I can see Gillian Saunders, I think, in about 4th or 5th in the red. She's actually a lawyer, qualified lawyer, one of the older athletes in this field.
Well, Gillian, of course, South African, was a bronze medalist, correct me if I remember, she's a bronze medalist in the Commonwealth Games in the mixed relay format there, and has made a home in London. She actually raced in the World Championships at the age of just 15 years old back in 1995 in Cancun in Mexico, just outside the podium places there. But what a lovely, lovely long career she's had, and is committed, she tells me, to going to the Commonwealth Games next year and then on to 2020 and the Olympic Games in Tokyo.
Yeah, it's great to see the slightly older athletes out there still able to compete with the best. Obviously, in the longer distance racing, we tend to get a bit better the older we get, but the average age I think here today is 22, so they're really youngsters.
So when you're saying old age, Lucy, I hope we're not referring to anybody very personable, are we?
Age is but a number, as I tell myself every year.
It's good. Well, it's lovely to see Kate Woff up there, and Lucy was talking about how maybe this sort of format is exciting for the juniors, especially if they're watching themselves first time in this high performance race, but also no fear, we're working through. Wow, look at this, Non-Stanford now taking it by the throat, and Kate Woff desperately trying to hang on, but well done, Non, back after injury, and that looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it will be a real confidence boost for Non, I think. I know what it's like coming back first race back, and you worry whether you've lost it. You kind of have all these doubts about whether you even had it, whether you fluked it. No matter how good you get, I think we all still have those doubts. So this will be hopefully a really good boost before Rotterdam in a couple of weeks.
Well, that is superb there. And it is our British admiral. Joanna Brown didn't have a great transition, Joanna, after doing so much work on the bike, but forcing her way back into contention now to hand over to the Canadian team to try to get them a very, very strong place going into the second athlete going through. So watching for this now, the takeover, it'll be a dive into the water, and then we get that 300-metre swim once again.
So there's no baton like there is in the relays, there's nothing to drop. I think it's just a high five, basically.
Well, a high five indeed, and it's a very steep descent going down, and I'm sure, well, I know the athletes were warming up and they'd be prepared for that, but really quite easy to stumble. It is that steep as they're going down. We've got a breakaway now. I did very, very frequently, it is on the relay discipline that we're having to wait until the run before we see a breakaway, but we have got a clear leader now. We've got a clear leader, I would say maybe 2-3 seconds, and we'll see if we can hold that as we hand over and we have our second athlete going into the swim. But a big performance by Non-Stanford, who is going to be just so delighted going into the latter end of the season.
Yeah, so I think it's Georgia Taylor-Brown on the front, so she's paced her run really well because she was a little bit off the pace at the start, but certainly putting time into Non and the Canadian, I think, just over this last kind of few hundred metres.
Yeah, my apologies there, getting carried away with watching Non. So again, you've got to say, I still think of Non as a very young athlete, watching her winning the World Under-23s and then the World Championship the year after. But of course now one of the more experienced athletes here, particularly after that 4th place at the Olympic Games in Rio just last year. But lovely that we've got the role models, we've got the top athletes like Jodie Stimpson, like Vicky Holland, like Non-Stanford. We've got our youngsters, Sophie Caldwell, Georgia Taylor-Brown, taking it from them. And here we are on the big changeover.
Look at that dismount. I would not want to sprint down that and dive afterwards.
Well, great handover. Erin Royal from Australia going in. Erin Royal now currently training up in Leeds and is the partner of Non-Stanford. So that's something very, very nice for him. What a great performance. We've seen Erin Royal on so many of the races right through. He was actually the World Under-23 champion. Wow, I'm just thinking how many years ago? I think 5 years ago he was World Under-23 champion and has been a consistent performer at the very top over those last 5 years.
Yeah, and I think he and Non were hoping to be on the same team, but since the withdrawal of Johnny Brownlee, they've been separated, so they're probably a bit disappointed about that, I imagine.
I think romance has to take a second place, the team tactics. So just to confirm, Leeds won winning and really did spread out on that run discipline from our first athletes. We've got a 30-second spread now between the first 9 teams, then a gap before we have Lucky 2 coming through in 10th place. So Japan, after that fabulous first performance, something has gone wrong there on either on the run or the takeover because they've dropped 20-25 seconds.
all credit to the Japanese athlete. I can't quite remember her name, but she was really doing a lot of work. So fair play to her.
And it was Fukusega. She went for it, and as I say, we know it's the long-term planning, so fantastic for there. Just a quick hesitation, a look up there, making sure. There we are. Look underneath the arm as we're breathing, see what's going through there, but really getting away. So leads one with Aaron Royal taking over from Georgia Taylor-Brown. They look to be at this stage really beginning to forge a commanding lead. Now, can Aaron hold that on the bike and the run?
It's interesting. I don't think it's enough at the moment for him to hold off a pack of kind of looks about 6 guys. I think that'd be quite hard on the bike. I imagine these guys will all be.
It does look powerful, doesn't it? That chase pack, just 2 or 3 seconds between them with Aaron by way, and certainly, as you say, Lucy, if you're off by yourself and you've got a chase group of 5, they're going to be working with each other to try to catch up. Looks quite choppy out there now, doesn't it? We can see that high recovery, I think, of all the swimmers in the leading 6, and does seem perhaps a little bit of closing down on that 3rd chasing pack. But at the moment, Aaron Royal leads.
It's interesting when you're racing, you always look out and you think it looks flat and calm and easy to swim, and then you get in it, and invariably it's much harder than it looks from the riverbank.
It is. Fortunately, just 300 metres that our athletes have to worry about, so full power right from the start. Looking forward, it'll be coming out of the swim into transition again, just 100% effort to try to stay away. Does he try to stay away, or does he just sit back and wait for the 5 chasers to catch him up and they can work together, perhaps to try to forge a lead over the second half of the field?
It does look like he's got a good 10-15 metres though. That's that's a reasonable gap, and obviously he'll have space in transition to do his own thing, a bit less pressure. It's a great swim from Aaron Royal.
Very, very good, very commanding. No slowing down at all.
I guess.
Sorry, I was going to say, of course, now it's almost without sound, but we'll say it that Aaron now really based up in Leeds, where previously has been training going down to Australia, but now made that move, training up with his partner with Non Stanford in Leeds.
I imagine they'll migrate to Australia for the winter, probably.
Quite possibly. What a big performance, Aaron Royal. He took that few seconds lead. He went for it from the absolute start. Well, you can see the sort of lead that he's got, and that chase pack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So confirming Leeds 1 lead, then Canada, all the work done by Joanna Brown. Leeds 2 in 3rd place, Loughborough in 4th, Great Britain under 23 5th, then the Great Britain juniors. What a performance they're having. GB juniors in 6th in front of Cardiff. Japan dropping half a minute almost on that second part of the first discipline, and London in 9th place.
Great transition from Aaron Royal. It'd be interesting to see if he waits, or if he really gets his head down and just tries to keep that gap.
Well, I think it's the Australian way. If you've got a lead, you go for it. We've seen that with so many of the Aussies in, I'd say, 2 sports particularly, triathlon and cycling, whereas they'll come over to do the European circuit, the European tour, and they will go flat out from the very first race. And if it doesn't work, that doesn't matter, because they'll go flat out again on the second race, and they'll just last longer and longer and longer. And by mid-season, they're right at the front. Aaron Royal is a totally committed, gutsy triathlete. It's his full-time career, his full-time job. Just in his crash hat now, taking that lead from Georgia Taylor-Brown into the swim and then again into the cycle. I don't think there's any looking back at all here, Lucy. I don't think he's prepared to wait for the chasers. He's saying to himself, well, guys, if you can catch me, that's great, but I'm not looking back. I'm not sitting up waiting for you. I'm going to go from it from the front.
I think you don't realise, unless you've been in this situation, how much easier it is to race hard if you're in the lead, because you get so much more support. And I know on the good days when I've been racing, it feels so much easier to go hard. So he'll be really milking it up, and it actually looks like he's putting in some time.
I totally agree. I think Aaron has put his head down, perhaps just with the group of 5 chasing him hard, a little bit less room. Let's see if we can just get a time check on that as he comes through. And I made just 4 or 5 seconds coming out of the swim, and that certainly has really extended 10, 11, maybe 12 seconds on that fast turnaround. Having to go wide with the 3 athletes there, but Aaron Royal, representing Leeds 1, is dominating this second discipline, dominating the cycle.
Yeah, I think if you're on your own with these tight corners, you do have a little bit more space, a little bit more leeway. You can ride on your own terms. You're not having to accelerate when someone else accelerates. So he's probably relishing this opportunity.
I think he looks absolutely as strong now as he did 3 or 4 minutes ago when he came out of the of transition onto the bike section. We can see the chasers.
So in Ironman, we're always relishing a bit of company. These guys they very rarely get the chance to ride around on their own and get the crowd support.
Well, we've got Chris Perham, we've got Canada there in second place, and we have Gordon Benson on that. Gordon Benson, a tremendous. So Matt Sharp from Canada, who's been really ripping up the circuit on the WTS, but he's looking behind. It looks like he wants a little bit of help there. He doesn't want to be the guy taking all the wind resistance at the front, and that's going to slow them down. And the man who doesn't care, the man who's away by himself, riding phenomenally, riding strong, riding absolute solo, slows down a little going round, but certainly he was round more quickly than we saw on the previous term when we had the 3 chasers jockeying for position. So let's just recap a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. We had that big group coming in. There were 11 of them to start with. That's really split out now. It looked like we have a few chasers. Now we've got Aaron Royal in front. We've got a fairly big gap, maybe 13, 14, 15 seconds, and a chase group of 3 with Leeds 2, Gordon Benson in there, Canada with Matthew Sharp, and Loughborough 1 with Chris Perham.
So I think there was something in the Rio Olympics, wasn't it, or London Olympics, about Yorkshire getting being quite high up in the league tables, medal tables. So it looks like there's a good chance we could have Leeds 1 and Leeds 2 both on the podium.
I think it was an absolute boast. I think Yorkshire gained more medals at the 2012 games than the whole of Australia. So Yorkshire bragging rights, and speaking as a man from the Yorkshire soil.
I guess we shouldn't omit the athletes a bit further down the field. There are lots of local teams or kind of teams from smaller performance centres who are really the future of British triathlon, and they may not be at the front today, but 5 years' time we might well see some of them.
Absolutely, Lucy, but I'd also say that when you look at Leeds, almost before the Johnny and Alistair revolution, that wasn't one of the big centres. So it's the talent that attracts talent. People want to go and train with the Brownleys. You see, it's not just the top Brits there, but we've got people from Europe, we've got the Australians coming in, and that's going to be a continuing phase. And hopefully we know both Alistair and Johnny have had a few issues in the past. Jonathan just last week back to his best, winning at Stockholm in the World Triathlon Series. Aaron Royal being absolutely roared on by the crowd here. So it is. I think it's the role models we said a little bit earlier with people like Non Stanford, Jodie Stimpson. They want to go and train with the Brownleys, and that's a large part to me of why Leeds has become the leading triathlon centre.
Oh, success breeds success. Absolutely. When I look at my inspirational role models, a lot of what I've achieved has been because of seeing people around me. So.
Well, Aaron Royal at the front, still dominating this second discipline for him. He's got the run to come through, of course, and I guess the only question mark is working so hard on the bike. Has that taken too much out of him to put in a strong run performance?
Do you know what? I don't think it will. It's such a short bike. These if he rides with the Brownies, he'll be used to hard rides that go on for 4 hours. So I think he'll still have the legs for a speedy run.
And he's going to get that support throughout the run course. We cross over the 2 bridges, actually, the Trent Bridge and the Suspension Bridge, but we're just looking, and we can see it's absolutely mass spectators right the way around the course. So there's no dead spots where your concentration can just go away a little bit. He's going to be roared on it, and it's almost it's a two-way effect, isn't it? You're taking in the applause, but at the same time you're looking to give back because you appreciate the people really roaring you on, and you want to give them absolutely everything that you can. It's going to be interesting when we come into cycle run transition, and just to see after this turn, we're going to be heading back towards it now. And again, let's see if we can just get a little time check on that coming through. The last one we had, unofficially of course, just taking it by ourselves, we thought about 11 seconds. 15 seconds we're being told coming through, and I think that's just about held steady. So 15 seconds, if you think that's as much as maybe 100 yards getting out on the run, that's a big lead to take into the run discipline.
Yeah, there's a big difference between running a 4:30 mile and a 4:15 mile, so
absolutely, and credit to him. I think he's at the moment he's epitomising what this relay racing is all about. That you go flat out from the start and you keep going, and whatever the pain is, whatever the hurt, you just keep going anyway, because you know that in a very short time we're looking at less than 20 minutes for these top athletes here. Less than 20 minutes of real 100% effort. They can hang on for that. They can hang tough for the entire time.
yeah, and of course Aaron Royal's handing over to Jess Learmouth, who got that wonderful second just last week or 2 weeks ago in Stockholm. And then they've got Tom Bishop finishing off, so they've certainly got no weaknesses. It seems hard to see that anyone will be able to overtake them from here, but
it does spread out, doesn't it, so much. We look at the first athletes going in, it has to be very close, but then in a very short time when we get the second lot of athletes coming through, that really does spread it out. And when you get someone who is prepared to go from the front, like Aaron Royal, that accentuates and accelerates that as well. So it does become a real spread out. As you say, I'm looking forward to, I love watching Jessica Learmouth race, because to me she's the next Flora Duffy, if you like, because she gives it 100% on the swim. She comes from a top swimming background. We've seen that she's been one of the few athletes prepared to duke it out with Flora Duffy on the World Triathlon Series, and that demonstrated in her success just last weekend at Stockholm, where she got her first ever WTS podium place. And who was the first one to congratulate her? Flora Duffy, of course. So Jessica Learmouth goes next on this leading team at the moment, and great credit once again to Aaron Royal for putting himself on the line 100%.
we haven't really talked about Loughborough, who are in that second group. We've got Chris Perham from Loughborough, so he's followed on by Jodie Stimpson and Ben Dijkstra, who is, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, apologies Ben, but Ben is a superb runner, so if he's within a handful of seconds at the start of the final run, you'd be pretty scared.
Absolutely, and I think we were talking earlier about where do you put the strengths, where do you put the I can't say weaknesses, there are no weaknesses, but maybe they're not so strong. And I think if we have a top runner with the men, that's where he's going to go. He's going to go in fourth place. As you say, with Loughborough, we haven't mentioned it enough. We've got to say Chris Perham is having a great race out here in this chase pack of three. Handing over to Jodie Stimpson, I really, one of the athletes I respect so much. Jodie, two-time Commonwealth gold medalist, has had more than her share of injuries, and every time she fights back. We were so strong that going into the Rio Olympics, Jodie, I think, was ranked 4th in the world and didn't make the Great Britain team.
Oh, heartbreaking.
And so she raced last week at Stockholm. She had a 15-second penalty there on the swim, which she was not delighted about. But she said, you know what? She said, I wanted to have a great swim and a great bike. Let's get back to the action here with Aaron Royal into transition area. Oh, is he going to look back and see his chase? Well, here come the chasing pack working through. We had 15 seconds, we were told. It looks to be about that. Now, Aaron Royal, if he gets an efficient transition, maybe he's going to be 100 metres down the road before we have the chasing pack coming in. So Aaron Royal is up and away, running free, and the chasing pack still racking their bikes. Aaron Royal leads.
What has he got in his legs?
I'm not sure what he's got in his legs, but I think I've seen him more fluid and more fluent than that in his running action in some of the previous races. Well, let's see what's happened. That's maybe a little bit unfair. If he doesn't sprint out, you think what he's done. Well, there's Aaron Royal again, if we possibly can. We'll try to get a time check, and I think now he's beginning to pick up. Just coming out of transition, took a few seconds just to gird his loins. And that 15 second we saw in the turn went down to 12 seconds at transition. 12 seconds, and it does look like we've got a very strong, efficient, fast chasing group.
Yeah, I think it takes some athletes a little bit longer to get into their stride than others off the bike, but they don't really have much time in a 1.5k run to get into their stride. So yeah. I know always in an Ironman it always takes me about 5 miles, but these guys have gone nowhere near as long.
No, they really don't, do they? By the time they've warmed up, they're going to be looking for the halfway points on the race. They're just 1,500 metres. So are we going to get somewhere under 4:30? I'm sure we are, but it's just taking that fatigue in, absolutely. Oh, he must be totally gut-wrenching. Just the lactic acid build-up, whatever you want, terms you put on the pain going through here. Aaron Royal is going through it, and we've got the chasers on him. We've got the chasers. Oh my goodness me, all that work, has it come to nothing? Are they going to go straight past them? Is Aaron Royal going to be able to stay there to that big gap that he opened down to nothing now? And I bet his teammates are just wondering and waiting and seeing what's going to happen on the second half of the run discipline.
And this is why relays are so exciting. There's so many tactics and you just don't know how to pace it.
Well, we had a chase group of 3, and unless I'm not watching the race properly, it looks like somebody from that second chase pack has come up extraordinarily fast. 1, 2, 3, 4 we're seeing there. So maybe it was just somebody running alongside. It certainly appears to be that. But we have those 4. Wow. Okay, well, Aaron Royal, he worked so hard. He suffered a little bit. He is not letting them get away from him by any means.
No, he must be hurting. I'm sure they're all hurting, but Aaron Royal probably more than others. But these all come in together, then that means they get a nice little swim group for the girls, which is good news for Jodie Stimpson, probably one of the weaker swimmers. I know she's worked really hard, but she'll be pleased to have company for that swim, I imagine.
Absolutely. Both the Leeds teams there. Matthew Sharp performed so well for Canada, and Chris Perham for Loughborough. So I guess these are the teams you would have expected to be up there fighting it out, and so it seems to be.
So interestingly, we're going to have Lucy Hall and Jess Learmonth starting the swim together. Now they're both axes on the swim and quite often lead out the World Championship races together. So those two will definitely be looking to put a bit of time into the Canadian team and the Loughborough team.
Wow, I love that term, Lucy. We're axing it. And isn't it amazing? Lucy Hall, Jessica Learmonth and Jodie Stimpson will be heading off together. Wow. Now, this is going to be interesting because Jodie's, traditionally, it's been her weak discipline, the swim on the 3. However, with the injuries that she's had that little bit more time to focus on the swim discipline. And at Stockholm last week, despite that 15-second penalty, she actually swam very, very well indeed. So I'm just hoping that with Jessica and Lucy, if she can just get on their feet straight away, and we're beginning to see a couple of gaps open now coming over the Trent Bridge, so we may have a little bit of a split up going through, but this is going to be absolutely fascinating into the 3rd leg, and it is by no means over, everything to play for at the moment. 4 teams in it. Are we going to have any chasers coming through from the second pack? We'll have to wait and see, but we're handing over to some top swimmers. Jess Learmonth, Lucy Hall, and it's Paula Findlay. I didn't even mention Paula Findlay from Canada, who's making a bit of a late career resurgence.
Yeah, so Paula Findlay was the next big thing a few years ago, wasn't she? She had some outstanding results, and then I think she had some problems with injuries and illness.
She did. Poor Paula had a whole host of injuries, and she made a couple of attempts at comebacks, which didn't really work out too well. Yes, Learmonth into the water now, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and our 4 are together.
They look good dives. I think if you got the Ironman athletes jumping off that, you'd see a fair few belly flops.
Okay, now here we go. Just working away from this, working. So Leeds 2, just 1 second in front of Canada, then Loughborough 1 and Leeds 1. So great performance on the run, especially by Gordon Benson, handing over to Lucy Hall.
Yeah, so Lucy Hall and Jess Learmonth are definitely 2 of the best swimmers on the ITU circuit, aren't they? So it's pretty special to see them both here, right at the front of the Nottingham Mixed Relay Cup.
It's great. Japan back in 8th place. We had a gap of way over 30 seconds after the leading 4 going through. And Japan, the early leaders, along with the Great Britain juniors in 7th and 8th place, really locked together. And then another gap before we see the very young Australian team coming through in 9th position with 2 athletes still to go.
So Australia have a great history in the relays, don't they? they've certainly won it, I think, at least twice in the past. I'm sure they'll be really aiming for a medal in Tokyo, but I think they've got quite a junior team here.
They do. They've got Matt Hauser here, of course, who was on the winning Australian team just a very, very short time ago. But really, it's almost as if they brought the juniors to go along with Matt. They're doing some of the European races to learn from him. And certainly what a great learning experience. And what a great exposure. Again, we talked about the youngsters getting exposure. The Australian young lads and girls coming over here and just seeing their almost fanatical backing here in Nottingham. Let's get back to the swim, because I'm looking down there, and you know what? We haven't really got a big gap. Paula Findlay, Jodie Stimpson, Lucy Hall, Jessica Learmonth, maybe 4 seconds, 5 seconds off the front, but that is all there is. Jodie Stimpson is absolutely, I'm going to say, swimming out of a wetsuit, but that's what it appears like. She feels, I'm sure, that she's got something to prove. The issue with Jodie is going to be, sadly, that with the injury, she's not yet running at 100% full strength. But we know that she's going to really give it everything on the bike. She's going to need to go away. Well, we see the chasing pack just coming down the long section there, we think around 40 seconds down. That is a big gap to try to close on a 7.5 kilometre ride. But one athlete away, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we have a lead group of 4 jockeying early on in the bike.
Well, these 4 ladies are all strong bikers. Jodie's very strong, Lucy and Jess. So I think they'll be hard to catch. Yeah, if Jodie hangs onto these feet, she will be delighted with that swim. I know she's worked really hard.
I think it's great. I don't think we could have scripted this better, could we? We're getting the 3 British girls representing 2 universities, and we've got Paula Findlay, who you said, really was coming up. I know she moved to training base a few years ago now, and that was maybe one of the issues that came through with the injuries that she picked up. But now she seems to be coming back. She's been racing well over the last season and a half, getting back into the sort of form that she was showing 5-6 years ago. Well, let's see. Well, it gives Paula everything to go for. She's got 3 British girls that she's raced against so many times in the past to be going out on the bike. So here we go into the swim bike transition.
So Jodie's hung on the whole way round. Fantastic swim from her. It's a steep run up into transition. When you get out the water, your heart's racing, everything is hurting, and then you've definitely got jelly legs. So that little run up the hill is definitely going to hurt.
Well, Lucy leading out. Lucy's been great on the bike previously. Just last week she had a little bit of a stutter on the bike, and I wonder if that's going to be playing on her mind. But she's the one, she's got a few seconds advantage. Now there's Jodie and Paula and Jessica desperately let's get rid of this wetsuit. Let's get on the bike and do what I can do best. So we're away with Lucy Hall. A little bit of a hesitation, getting her feet on the pedals now. And we've got 6 seconds and then just a couple of seconds gap on that. So that's nothing that can't be made up, certainly with these 3 working together.
Yeah, and they'll be highly motivated. I don't think Jess or Jodie or Paula will want to let Lucy get away. So I imagine we'll see this gap coming down, but who knows what Lucy can do.
Well, Jodie Stimpson was saying a little bit earlier that she sees this race as a bit of a bonus with everything she's had to put up for. She was she had she called it a good workout at Stockholm. She was 75% pleased and 25% despondent with that penalty that she had. But on the chase group now, we can see Lucy working hard. No closure at the moment, but with 3 top athletes behind her, we'll see if they do manage to close down. Lucy's proved her strength on the bike. She was a silver medalist at Europeans, actually behind Jessica Learmonth. So, and just last year, and one of those who's beginning to improve her run.
I think it's really interesting seeing how people come back from injury. It's such a tough time when you're on the sidelines watching, and I always think you learn more about yourself and about other people as athletes in the tough times rather than the good times. It's easy to be motivated when everything's going well, but to come back from injury and a year out is tough, and not everyone manages it.
Absolutely, Lucy. And I think we look at a couple of our guys here, Jonathan and Alistair Brownlee, who've, you know, how that's fabulous. They have 4 Olympic medals between them, 2 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. They've both had to deal with some pretty nasty injuries and some illnesses at the moment. I mean, Alistair had surgery just 3 or 4 weeks back. Jonathan had a fabulous race last weekend after having a few upsets. Unfortunately, he's not 100%. That's why he's not racing here today. As we saw in the turnaround, back in the action, Lucy Hall just looking back, very, very wide turn there from Paula Finley. Paula Finley looking to do the work on that group of 3. And they've made a significant gap over the rest of the field.
There's some tight corners, aren't there? Pretty tricky.
There are some tight corners. I think this, Lucy and Jessica and Jodie have all proved themselves very, very good at the bike handling skills. I would say if we're looking at the bigger picture, look at the World Triathlon Series, then maybe Flora Duffy from Bermuda. She's done a lot of work on mountain biking. Her boyfriend is a fabulous mountain biker, so she's learned so much from that and really can put that into the triathlon cycling. But we also have some great cyclists here with Lucy and with Jessica. Now that gap beginning to close up.
So Lucy, yes, just saw her taking a drink, and I actually wonder whether she's just decided then deliberately, I'm going to get caught, so I may as well save my legs rather than killing myself. And certainly now she's looking around, trying to get someone else to do some work on the front.
Well, I would think Lucy's tactics with this particular group have to be that she will want to stay with the group, of course, but I think she'll want to, if she possibly can, to do as little work as possible to save her legs. When we've seen her before, it has been the run which has been a little bit of weakness. She's improved significantly on that, as indeed as Jessica. I wonder what sort of shape Paula Finley is going to be in, and I'm just thinking with Jodie. Jodie said, okay, you know, it's not a 10-kilometre race, so I don't have to worry about hurting on that time. So we could just see Jodie Stimpson maybe just springing a surprise here and really trying to give it everything, disregard the injuries that she's had to overcome.
Yeah, and she'll have had confidence, I think, from getting around that race in Stockholm, coming out hopefully injury-free, so she'll probably be a bit less nervous, a bit less scared. She'll certainly be less tired coming off the bike. There's almost nothing to lose, is there, in this situation?
I think she's going to be delighted to be in the leading group, and to be absolutely delighted that she was able to cover the moves from Lucy and Jessica on the swim, because that certainly would have been the weakness. You know, a year ago that could have been 8-10 seconds opening up, and that didn't happen. We've got a little bit of chatting going through, a little bit of talk about tactics. Are we going to work together, or are I going to go away? I don't think they'll be giving away any secrets there. So this is going to be fascinating about how each one of these 4 athletes deal with the situation that they're in, and it is going to be decision time. How much confidence do I have in my run? What are the others like? How have their injuries been? Do I feel that I can just sit back and go for it on the run, or do I try to open the gap now, commit, and hope that they're just not going to be able to catch up on that run discipline? Every move being covered at the moment. Paula Finley back on front, and I guess Paula is going to be delighted to be at the head of a lead pack as well.
We haven't heard much about Paula recently, have we? So great to see her back on the racing scene. She's certainly an enormous talent.
And she was racing so well at junior and under 23, came through to the senior ranks and was absolutely dynamic. I remember watching her down in London pre-Olympics. That's going back some time now, and she was superb. She really was superb. Injuries take their toll, but as you say, Lucy, it's how you deal with the injuries, how you come back. Still looking comfortable as they pass it in front of the grandstand. Everything to go for still at the moment.
And I think going back to the injury situation, I think you either run away when you get an injury, or you think, okay, how can I make the best of a bad situation? And Jodie's clearly thrown herself into the swimming pool, and is probably going to come back a far stronger athlete because of that. And that's a sign of champions. I remember training with Non Stanford years ago when I was an age grouper in the Alps, and she got her first WTS World Triathlon Series start, and she had a horrible bike crash just before it, and seeing her bounce back from that was really inspirational. It taught me a lot.
Yes, absolutely. It is. What's that old cliche? It's not the cards you get given, it's how you play those cards, and this is what's happening. Each one of these 4 have had upsets to deal with, and they've all dealt with them successfully. Okay, I'm just beginning to look ahead, and I'm anticipating that these 4 stay away, whatever the situation on the run, because that not one of these athletes will give up. They're going to work and work and work. And I'm looking at the final 4 athletes from our leading 4. Tom Bishop from Leeds 1, Mark Buckingham from Leeds 2, who has just come back from the World Long Course Championships. I spoke to Mark, I said, why? And he said, because there's nobody else, I had to. Jeremy Brian from Canada, and then the youngster, Ben Dijkstra from... from Loughborough 1, and Ben, okay, he's the youngest out of those 4, but boy, can he run. That is going to be something else.
And you've got to remember, Mark's come back from a 6-hour race to do a 15, 16-minute race. So with the jet lag and everything else going on, I'm sure Mark's going to be quite tired, but maybe he'll surprise us.
Well, Mark actually raced 3 times out at the Penticton Long Course World Championships. He was 3rd in the duathlon, 5th in the aquathon, the swim run, and 9th in the absolute long course triathlon. So I think he has an excuse. But again, Mark's background, but with running particularly, he's used to suffering, he's used to putting it all on the line, he's used to overcoming anything that's there. Now, do we have an effort here? We certainly have an effort, but is it going to be a stay away?
Yeah, it definitely looks like she's trying to get a breakaway, but I think the other 3 are not going to let her get that gap.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be too much movement. It's and again, because it's only 7.5 kilometres, if an attempt at the breakaway is not sustained, it's going to be covered very, very quickly indeed.
So out of the 4 of these, who would you say is the best runner, Steve? I guess I'd go for Jodie on paper, but
okay, well, we're just getting information. We're seeing that on the screen now. Our chasing group is a minute behind, a whole minute behind, which might not on a 10-kilometre run be too much, but going into just a 1,500-metre run, it's really been quite substantial. So who is the best runner? I don't know. You know, on paper, I would say that Jodie Stimpson should be, but Jodie's been dealing with injuries. Jessica's run has improved phenomenally. We are not sure of what state of health and fitness Paula Findlay is. She's certainly better now than she has been from last season, certainly, and early on this season. I really do think it's everything to play for, and it's significantly with the relay format. It's what it's going to lead to with the 4 athletes going through. Wow, that's Tom Bishop, Mark Buckingham, Jeremy Briand, and my goodness me, Ben Dijkstra. That's going to be wow. I hope almost that it is head-to-head, that we're going to see it right down to the wire. No one's managed to get away. Jodie's made the effort to get away. Paula made the effort to get away. Lucy seems to be more content in just sitting back there and following every break. Now we've got Jessica making an effort, but nobody's going to get away, I don't think. It's getting towards the end of the cycle section, and it's getting late. It's getting late to try to make a significant breakaway and maybe pay the price with the hurt in your legs going into the 1,500-metre run.
Yeah, I think at this stage they'll just be thinking, make sure that we get through transition safely and have enough to absolutely give it everything for the run. I guess if you were going to make a breakaway, you needed to do it early to get a big enough gap.
And I'm sure that their coaches and team managers will be telling them they've got a minute gap on the chasing group, and that's a significant amount of time.
So starting to get their feet out, I think.
Well, we're starting to get the feet out, and we're also starting to make a little bit of a move. So unlike the earlier athletes we saw, we see the feet are coming out of the pedals, and then we're making the big sustained effort. Nobody's going to get away. We're going to be into transition together. We're going to be out on the run, maybe not together, but with a few seconds. And again, the beauty of triathlon, the fourth discipline they call it, into transition, and that's where it does make a really, really significant part. So here we come, dismount into transition.
Obviously, making sure that you don't get off the bike before the dismount line is, or over the dismount lines, is critical in races like this. Remember, Johnny Brownlee got that horrible penalty back in London.
Well, Paula Findlay looking strong as she goes into transition, featuring Jodie Stimpson at the moment. That's a fast transition by, Paula Findlay, Jodie Stimpson getting on. Well, we're all getting away on this one. Now we will see guts and determination. Lucy Hall dropping a couple of seconds, that surprises me.
I imagine pacing a 1 mile run is hard because you're going flat out, but it'd be all too easy to go out far too fast at the start.
Absolutely, and of course most of their training is geared for 5 kilometre and 10 kilometre. But now Jessica Learmonth, newfound confidence after European Championships, after Stockholm last week, I would say most definitely there. Jodie Stimpson covering on Paula Findlay, and Jodie, she will not give in. I mean, if her leg breaks, she might just slow down a little bit, but I'm sure that's all it would be. Early times at the moment for these three. They've got away from Lucy Hall. We've got a lead group of 3. We're getting a time check up. And yeah, so into transition with just 1 second, insignificant at that point. But now Jessica Learmonth is putting herself on the line. Paula Findlay is going with her. Credit to Paula. And Jodie Stimpson's got a little bit of a gap open, maybe 4 or 5 metres at the moment. But early times, I'm sure she's going to be conscious of the injury she's had to put up with. And our chase groups, we're just getting the information over a minute down. So at the moment, it looks like our race winners, our podium slots, are going to come from Leeds 1, Leeds 2, Canada and Loughborough 1.
Jess looks super strong on the front. She must have been working really hard on her running. It's certainly come on a lot this year.
Just think of the confidence she must have after working so hard on the cycle section just last weekend in Stockholm with Flora Duffy, and then she had to give best to Flora. But if you look back at Flora Duffy, world champion 3 times over last year on the various disciplines, there was always Flora's weakness was to run. So I'm sure Jessica will be thinking, wow, well, if Flora can do that, I can learn from her, and I'm sure that I can do that as well. And she's proving it here. These two are getting away now from Jodie Stimpson, and really, okay, not early in the run section, but early enough that it's going to be significant.
And they've got good pain faces going. They're really giving it everything, aren't they?
It really is. Well done, Jessica. Well done, Paul. Now, Jodie Stimpson, is she beginning to come back just a little bit? And she's going to be so aware of the time gap that she does not want to be there when she hands over, of course. And look at that. Oh, she's hurting now. Now, I think that looks as if she's just carrying her left leg just a little, just as she's going down there. So Jodie Stimpson is hurting, but she's not giving up. We knew she wouldn't give up. That's just not in her physical or psychological makeup. Absolutely strong, but she's having a hurt there, but she's managed to stay away from Lucy Hall. Lucy Hall, okay, we said she's not quite as strong as these other athletes on this, but she's hanging tough. She's giving it everything. Paula Findlay from Canada leads along with Jessica Learmonth, and they've got a 3, 4, 5 second gap over Jodie Stimpson.
They've got a bit of company. I wonder how long these guys could keep it up for. Probably not that long, I imagine, but a little kid at the front's doing quite well.
I'm going to say Jessica, we know she's in great shape, and much credit to Paula Findlay. Lovely to see her back at just at the top of the table again. She's running very, very strongly. She looks in fabulous physical shape, as does Jessica. I think Jessica maybe just a slightly faster turnover. We're going to see a bit of an acceleration as we come into the last 200, 250 metres. Well, Paula Findlay's not giving way at all there, is she, Lucy? Just really fighting it through. Jessica's trying to really push it on, trying to dominate. Paula will not let her go. So it's going to be a 2-up going into the 4th and final athlete.
I wonder whether it's easier to make yourself hurt if you're part of a team. I imagine it is, because that little voice that says you could slow down, you can't if you've got your friends and your training partners, banking on you, giving it everything.
Well, a little bit of a hiccup from Jessica there going through that narrow section. She's covered that, she's back, maybe half a metre in front, if anything. Coming over Trent Bridge now.
We're seeing the finish line, knowing that they've got probably less than a minute to go, and breathing a huge sigh of relief, I imagine.
Well, Jessica making a big effort again. She's trying to get away from Paula, turning off the bridge now, and we're coming down. We've got maybe 100 metres to go, maybe 120 metres. Wow, excitement here. We can hear the grandstand crowd from over. Look at that excitement there. Oh my goodness me, Tom Bishop is absolutely so excited.
This is going to be a cracking 15 minutes watching these guys duke it out.
Well, Tom Bishop leads from Jeremy Briand. So Leeds 1 leading from Canada. Big performance by Jodie Stimpson. She's handing over to Ben Dijkstra going in.
That's super
Wow, we
runner,
know
yeah.
his running speed, and maybe in terms of pure speed, it might well be that Ben Dijkstra is the man. What's he going to do on the swim and the bike to get into that?
And how hard will he have to work on the bike to save those legs? Is he going to have to chase to try and catch up to the front?
And of course, we're talking about Ben Dijkstra. Lucy Hall handing over to the ace runner, Mark Buckingham, coming from an international run background before he got into triathlon.
With a mere 3 races in Canada, including a 6-hour smash fest.
Well, we've got pluses and minuses with Mark. We've got the fatigue, but we've got that athletic ability that he's shown. He was a tremendous middle distance. He still is a tremendous middle distance runner. Okay, so officially Paula Findlay just headed out Jessica, heading out Jodie by 9 seconds and only a couple of seconds back to Lucy Hall. So looks like Jodie's injury really catching up with her on the last 400 metres or so of the run.
Yeah, but good for her for gritting it out and just getting stuck back in. Yeah, I think just going back to Mark quickly, I think his last race was a 30k run. He's now doing a 1.5k, so...
Yeah, Mark could say, well, it was a good warm-up. I don't know about a warm-up, but we've certainly got a fantastic introduction to this race with our 3 athletes heading it out, really push right the way through. Wow.
So I'm not sure who's in 4th place, because they've got a little gap now. That's going to be quite hard to make up on the bike.
I think it was Mark Buckingham coming down in 4th place. Certainly confirming that we're seeing Canada. We can see the 4 on that. And that's going to be Tom Bishop, I'm sure. And it's going to be I think it's Ben Dijkstra, our other 3rd athlete up there.
Yeah, it is number 5, Ben. So yeah, you wouldn't want to be against any of these
Oh
3.
my goodness me. Well, Ben had such a great performance at World Juniors last year. And when you think a relatively inexperienced athlete got on the podium there, he's a year bigger, a year stronger. He's training full time now. You know, he is maybe the face of the future. He's still in his teens. We've got Johnny and Alistair Brownlee getting towards their late 20s. And I mean, no disrespect whatsoever, because I really think age is immaterial. But when you're younger, you have more skills to be able to learn. You've got more fitness to be able to gain. And Ben Dijkstra loves this head-to-head competition. He really does. Having said that, so does Tom Bishop. Of course he does. So does Jeremy. You know, they're going to be relishing this. It's I'm excited watching the swim. I'm more excited thinking about what might happen on the bike, because I just think, you know, they know each other's running strengths. Is there going to be a commitment to try to break away on the bike? It could well be. And they're also thinking Mark Buckingham is a little bit behind. Okay, he's tired. We know how good a runner he is. Are we prepared to lead it to the final 1500 run, even though it is just a 1500?
It's been great seeing Tom Bishop really come through over the last year. I think a triathlon in the UK has been dominated by the Brownlees, and it's been really nice to have a bit of an opportunity for Tom to show his strengths. And he's certainly had several top 10s and is really consistently breaking through on the world stage now.
He certainly is. I mean, he just missed off the podium in Leeds, and then he had that fantasy. He's been consistent now. He's not a top 20 or top 15 consistent. He's now a top 5 consistent, and he's beginning to make the breakthrough. That's going to happen, I'm sure it is. Well, here we are, leading out of the swim. We've still got our 3 together and working so hard. Nobody getting away, hands behind, undoing that wetsuit very, very quickly. It is the 4th discipline. It is the important part of triathlon. Can't afford to let anything down. Tom Bishop leads, Ben Dijkstra in 2nd, and Jeremy Briand in 3rd. But really, we're just calling that by a tenth of a second coming through. And there is a gap before we don't have Mark Buckingham coming into view. And I guess if Mark does have a weakest discipline, it would be the swim. And as you say, the fatigue from World Long Course just last year. Well, here we go on to the 2nd of our final 3 disciplines.
So, are these guys going to stay as a group of 3? What do you think?
I don't know. Tom Bishop seemed to really get the bit between his teeth going out of transition. He sprinted out with his bike. He was on the bike well before. Ben Dijkstra and Jeremy Briand, they came out together. I'm not sure if it was just a little bit of slowing down, or if it was just the focus to make sure that they got their feet and they didn't make any mistakes. And certainly that's the last thing that they would be looking for at the moment.
Bit of a gap though to Ben, and he's definitely a stronger runner than he is biker, so I kind of hope from an excitement point of view he doesn't get dropped, because we want a real head-to-head run at the end, don't we?
That's what we want to see, but just thinking it's relatively early stages on the bike. So the gap's there, a couple of seconds, and then a 20-second gap to Mark Buckingham. That's not unbreakable with Mark, but it's difficult with the short bike and then going into the run. And also he's distanced himself from the three leaders, and that's going to be pretty tough to deal with. He's going to be thinking those three are up ahead of me, they're working together. I mean, Tom immediately identifiable by the big tattoo right the way through his left arm. Got a twin brother, of course, David, who's also a top triathlete.
And at the moment, though, these guys, well, they are coming together, but at the moment it was man for man, so that would play into Mark Buckingham's favour, but if they come together, he's certainly at a disadvantage.
Well, it looks like Jeremy's catching up more quickly than Ben Dijkstra. If Ben just having I'm not going to say a struggle, that's totally unfair, but maybe not bridging that gap as quickly as we might have hoped. Meanwhile, we've got our leaders, we've got we've got a lot of our other triathletes just into transition area, so that gap is really stretched right the way out now, over a minute it appears. I'm sure we'll get an official time check with the chasers fairly quickly. But at the moment, we have a loose group of three away. Tom Bishop working hard. Jeremy Brian from Canada in second place. Well, we were talking about Mark Buckingham, comes out there. Well, we're just seeing now, I'm sure you can see, guys, it's Mark Buckingham. That's why he became more detached than he would have hoped. Just the excitement of the moment, forgot to put his crash out on, and that's the one thing that when we're coaching, we're teaching our athletes, actually make a list of what you need to do in transition, make a list in order. The excitement, Mark must be very fatigued, 3 long races coming back into the relay team, wants to do well, and the excitement just taking over. Meanwhile at the front, Tom Bishop in splendid isolation at the moment. So Jeremy Briand made a big effort to go along with Tom. Tom wasn't standing for it, he's gone for it, he's put himself on the line, and he is out by himself with 2/3 of the bike to go, and then a final 1,500 metre run. A little bit of caution coming round the corner.
Yeah, the Leeds team will be watching this on the big screen and certainly be very pleased to see a bit of a gap there.
Unofficially, I made that 7-second gap just on the turnaround, but Jeremy Briand has moved away just a little bit from Ben Dijkstra.
I think Ben's struggling a little bit on the corners compared to the others. He looked a little bit more hesitant, and on a course like this, you can lose, a couple of seconds each corner, so it soon adds up.
So I'm just wondering, Lucy, what can Ben afford to be behind going into the run, because Tom's run is one of the strongest out there. We saw him at Leeds particularly, where he was working hard. I think he was splitting as quickly as the Brown is going through onto the run. So he's got everything to go for, and he's in great shape. He's proved that this season. He's working hard. He's gone for it by himself. He hasn't sat up. He hasn't looked back from help from Jeremy. He hasn't waited for Ben. He's gone for it. He's made that commitment, and you've got to say, with the bravery like this, you hope that he can hang on to it and keep that lead.
Yeah, and Ben's going to be having a hard ride, because remember, he's on his own, so it's not like he's sitting in a pack and getting a free ride. I think he'll be certainly not wanting to give Mary more than 10 seconds, and it looks like it's going to be a big chunk more than that.
And I guess the other possibility is if Mark gets it back together, if he just really works hard and maybe catches up with Ben, and they've got the opportunity to work together to chase out, I was going to say our leading 2, but it's certainly our leading 1 with Tom Bishop at the moment. What a fantastic gap he's opened on this bike discipline.
Yeah, he looks so smooth in that time trial position. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's got any tri bars, but he's certainly practiced riding the aero position, so that narrow front, balanced on the bars, lapping up the support he will be. He'll have lots of people he knows out there watching. This is a big gap, isn't it, Steve?
It's a tremendous gap. I'm doing the check. I make that 17, maybe 18 seconds. So with that gap opened up, maybe it's it's certainly not all lost for Ben Dijkstra and Mark Buckingham. We'll just see what sort of gap there is, and with the second half of the ride, if they're going to have that toughness, that mental strength. Well, maybe we do. Here's Jeremy coming through. Wow. Absolutely stretch out on that. So how strong is Tom? Wow, that's tremendous riding. That really is.
attacking some of the slower teams. Yeah, I think I think the line we just saw coming through just behind was actually a lap rider, so I think the gap from Tom is pretty big.
No, yeah, absolutely right, Lucy. It's 7.5, so less than 4 kilometres on just one single lap. Out and back, 2 kilometres each, halfway. It's so easily done, of course it is. Got to give credit to this young man. He's gone for it, he's put himself on the line, he's working hard on the corners. Very little slowdown, using body weight to make the corners nice and smooth as he goes in and on the exit. Well, there's Tom Bishop. What a great turn going through. Now, this is one of our lapped riders coming round. They're working hard, but he's not going to make any inroads on Tom with just one whole lap behind him.
So Ben's now in second place, is he? That's Ben?
I'm wondering if it is, because, well, that looks like it. Is this Jeremy Brand? Certainly can't be, can it? So well, maybe we just missed the picture on Jeremy Brown when they cut away there, but let's wait and see what's happened there.
If that's Ben, then that's going to be an exciting run, because that gap is not that big.
Wow, this is phenomenal.
So look at that face. He's really giving it everything.
He is, but doesn't he look relaxed upper body? As you say, with the time trial position, with just holding onto the bar, not even holding, just leaning onto the bars, in a nice low position. He's pushing a big gear there. That's going to take the strength out of his legs going into the run.
But the key for a fast bike is making sure that you're doing as little with your upper body as possible. Having a really strong core is far more important than people realise, actually. Keep that upper body still, get all the power going through the legs, and Tom's certainly doing that today.
Yeah. There's always a lot of talk and conjecture, Lucy, isn't there, about whether you should push a big gear or looking to twiddle, and it almost seems to be coming down that if you're racing the longer distance racing Ironman, then we can go in the big gear because it takes a long time to get onto the run, whereas on the Olympic distance, sprint distance, the relays, really we're trying to get muscle memory going through. Well, our leading athletes able to see each other on opposite sides of the road.
So this is really quite close. So Ben's having a 24 seconds the gap at the turn. So it's going to be a close run, but it's a big gap.
Big performance by Ben. Interesting, 24 seconds, wow, 150 metres down the road, that's a lot on a mile. That really is a lot. If you imagine that on a track that you're running 3 3/4 laps, and as you start, the other guy's on the other side of the track waiting for you.
Yeah,
wow.
Not good psychologically, but I guess that, there's a few seconds to be had in transition for one of them. We saw Mark have that mistake in transition. It's quite easy in the panic, the fluster, to give away a few seconds here and there, and we just have to hope neither of them get any penalties.
Well, very sporting here. We've got a couple of our lap riders actually moving over to give Tom a clear road as he's going through, and no attempt to jump on his wheel, which is great sportsmanship. 24 seconds, Tom Bishop leads.
Ready for 4.5 minutes of pain.
Pain and enjoyment, perhaps, knowing here on the very first mixed relay cup, Accenture British Triathlon mixed relay cup, could be the one. He is the man in pole position certainly at the moment. He's going to be able. Here we're getting ready for transition.
So we always talk about getting ready for the hurt box, and these guys are definitely going to be in the hurt box in the next few minutes.
Well, hurt box, but with a 24-second cushion makes it maybe a little bit less hurt, a little bit more pleasure. There we are. Let's rack efficiently. Make sure everything's going. Field of play rules all adhered to. And Tom Bishop is away and running fast. Oh, he looks like he's got some hurt in his legs. But we said that when we watched our leading female athletes on the previous leg going through, and that recovery came through really quite quickly. But I'm sure we're going to get here we go. Well, Ben Dijkstra has had an absolutely superb second half of the bike discipline, and I just wonder what he can do. The youngster coming through, the youngster up at Loughborough, working hard now, and he is chasing hard.
Yeah, he's going to going to be absolutely nailing it. Another little companion, not managing very far with Tom, but good on him for trying. Tom looks relaxed, doesn't he? He looks good.
He does look very strong. It's quite a slow cadence, isn't it? Long stride length there. We hope we can get a shot fairly quickly with Ben, so we can just have a look at the strengths of both of them. But so reminder there, around 24 seconds time gap coming into that final transition. Well, the final transition. We've just seen Jeremy Breen going out now onto the run. Now let's see. Well, 33 seconds that was upwards. And I don't know, I wonder if Jeremy maybe had a crash on the bike, because that's surprising that he's going to lose over a minute on such a short cycle section. Just wondered if there was a mishap, I really don't know.
Because he went from second to third quite quickly.
Very quickly. Mark Buckingham 140 down now, so that mishap in transition taking its toll, sadly.
It's hard to see Ben being able to catch Tom with that time gap, but such a short run.
Indeed it is. It's following through. So half a minute down. Wow. Not 200 metres, but actually not too far off 200 metres. So give away 12% of the run distance. That's a lot to try to catch up. Well, I think he's, as you said, Lucy, I think Tom's still got his hurt face on at the moment, but he is running strongly, isn't he? He's again got one of our younger spectators for company. And Ben Dijkstra looking down on Tom as he seems to go over the bridge, just calculating, am I going to be able to catch that up? Is it worth giving it a go? What sort of cushion do I have on my chasers?
So Tom's on the home stretch now, isn't he? Just running back round the far side of the embankment and just got to come over the bridge, and I think he'll be able to enjoy that finish line.
I think he will. He looks comfortable, he's running strongly, he had a big cushion going in, he's hurting but he's in control, he's waiting for the final couple of turns, he's relishing the applause that he's going to get.
His third place Canadian team, they've done well really. I expect they'll be pleased with their performance. Be interesting to know what happened on the bike.
Wow. It's a big gap, a very big gap. As I say, it's. I think everybody will be wondering what happened there, because we certainly would not have anticipated that, and it seems unlikely that Jeremy would have lost so much time without either a mechanical or a slip on a corner or something. I'm sure we'll find out later on. At the moment, it's Tom Bishop. Tom Bishop leads, Ben Dijkstra in second place. So it's Leeds number 1, Leeds from Loughborough number 1. In third place at the moment, Canada, and in fourth place, Leeds 2 with Mark Buckingham.
And they're going to have a cracking finish. The atmosphere down here is fantastic. The sun's shining. Everyone's having a brilliant time. I think Nottingham's done the race proud, haven't they, in terms of spectators?
They certainly have. And I'm just thinking now, OK, we're focusing in on Ben Dijkstra now in second place at the moment. Is there a possibility of Mark Buckingham catching Canada's Jeremy Breen on the run? He's strong. He's tired. We've got both sides of the race plan, the race face at the moment. Okay, over that Trent Bridge for Tom Bishop, and he is going to be in view of the grandstand spectators in a very short time. Meanwhile, we still have athletes coming into transition.
So look at that finish face of Tom Bishop as he runs into finish. Leeds has won the first mixed triathlon cup. They'll be delighted with that.
Wow, tremendous performance by Tom. Guts and determination. Let's bring out the cliches. He went for it on the swim. He dominated, absolutely dominated on the bike, and he hung so tough on the run. And he's opened a big cushion now. He's looking down thinking, wow, did I do that? You bet I did. You bet I did. Where's the youngster? Where's Ben Dijkstra? Because you know who's going to be the very first man to congratulate him. Big performance by Ben. Tremendous athlete. Still, you have to stay still relatively inexperienced, racing with the seniors, looking down, welcoming the applause, welcoming the plaudits, with the race happy face on. and going to be greeted by Tom Bishop over the line. And Ben shaking his head and going, you know what, you had a great race, I didn't have enough there today.
Yeah, the Leeds 1 team, Georgie Taylor-Brown, Aaron Royal, Jess Learmouth and Tom Bishop, they'll be over the moon. I imagine Luff will be bittersweet, but ultimately they definitely gave it everything, didn't they?
But I think it's lovely there for Loughborough because, you know, Sophie's been coming through, she's had some tremendous performance. Chris Perham performed out of his socks there, and Jodie Stimson, just at the moment with Jodie, everything is a pure bonus. And she's certainly letting Tom know that. Look at these guys. Of course, they're teammates on the Great Britain team. They've raced with and against each other so many times. And here comes Jeremy Breen coming through. He's hung tough on that third place. And Bendixtra, Tom Bishop, welcome him in home.
It's great to see Jodie not scared to race when she's not at her best. I think so many people are afraid to get on the start line if they don't have their A game, and it's great to see Jodie just happy to get out there and know that each race is a stepping stone to being back at her best.
It is. I just hope so much, Lucy, that Jodie doesn't feel pain as she doesn't hurt herself. She's going into World Championships in Rotterdam in just a couple of weeks' time, as indeed obviously a lot of our athletes here today. Well, Mark Buckingham, I'm not sure about the race face or the happy face. I think he's got wow, that was an interesting week. 3 ultra distance races, then coming into this tiny little one at the end. And he's thinking, wow, did I do that? This is what I do for a living?
A fun day out for Mark. He does look pretty smashed, doesn't he? Probably.
And of course, boyfriend and girlfriend there, Mark Buckingham and Lucy there. So
yeah, there's a few triathlon couples, aren't there, Steve?
Well, I don't think we can have any conjecture on that at all. So our results: Leeds 1 take it with 1 hour 18 minutes and 58 seconds, just 41 seconds down in second place. Loughborough 1, big performance. Canada in third. Not sure what happened on the bike. We'll wait and see. And Leeds 2 in fourth place, 2 minutes down. And what a display of strength for the Leeds setup to have first and fourth in this tip-top class field. That is good. Beating national teams from Australia, Japan, Canada. Wow.
So this is 5th place coming in now. This is the Japanese team, so they I imagine will be really pleased. I think they're quite a young team, had that great start, didn't they, from Fukasaga, who certainly was doing a lot of work in that front bike
She
pack,
was tremendous, wasn't she? And that was Koki Yamamoto coming in there now for Jan. And again, just really seeing now how close the teams have been after the that breakaway. What was 4 then became 3, but really coming in very close indeed.
And then I think we had GB Juniors followed by Australia, the young team from Australia, so they'll definitely have a stronger team in Tokyo, I'm sure. This guy's racing all the way to the end. It must be hard to be the last team member from a slower team.
It is, isn't it? It's, it's just sort of thinking, if we're looking at the track and field analogy there, if you're racing the 4x400 at top level, whether it's World, Commonwealth, Olympics, whatever, and you just desperately want to be there if you're going off third or fourth leg runner. If you're not, it's I've got to run, but what am I going to get out of it?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the Nottingham team come in. I do a little bit of swimming with Steve Lloyd's group. He's got four athletes racing, all quite young, all quite inexperienced, but it'd be great to see them cross the line.
Good to see Jordan Hull there from Great Britain under 23, just coming through. We've been congratulated by his teammates.
Team Bath just coming down the finish line.
Alex Charter Main there for Team Bath. That was a really very strong triathlon centre not so long ago, and as the power seems to have shifted away.
We've got Vicky Holland based down there, though.
Vicky Holland down at the Bath Centre. And it is cyclical, isn't it? Things turn around, and with Vicky down there, I'm sure that'll be attracting athletes to get down there as well.
Yeah, and going back to the whole success breeds success, I think takes a little bit of while for talent to come through, and Bath will certainly grow over the next few years, I imagine.
I'm sure they will. Sometimes it's easy to forget, Lucy, just how strong Great Britain is in the world of triathlon. It's male and female at all distances. We can go through everything there. You see, I say young Tim Don, who must be approaching 40. I mean, he's had success at sprint distance right the way up to the full Ironman. And of course, it's half Ironman World Championships next weekend.
Next
I believe, at
weekend,
Chattanooga.
yes. Yeah, I'm not sure if Tim's racing. He had that amazing Ironman race, smashed the Ironman world record.
And I kept in touch with Tim, and he said now, of course, total focus is on for Kona at the end of the year, and if he does race at all, then it's going to be very much geared to using it as what can I find out about myself before going into Kona, because he wants it. He's been a three-time Olympian. He's won World Championship, junior and senior. It's the next thing for him.
Yeah, and he hasn't nailed Kona yet, so maybe this will be his year. The young German team just finishing. Again, they'll have a much stronger team, I'm sure, in Tokyo. It's a great opportunity to experiment, isn't it? To give the younger athletes a chance to showcase, to get used to racing on the big screen, TV cameras, all the media hype. A lot of them will never have seen things like this before.
Absolutely. I mean, the average age of this German team is just 17 years old. What a lovely experience. I'd say a lovely experience. Wow, okay, I wanted to do this, I chose to be there. And it's been fantastic. So Cameron Main from Stirling 2, just over the line.
So Stirling, coached by Bex Mills, who's actually a friend of mine. I think she's doing great things with the Scottish team.
Yeah, well, Bex was a very, very good athlete, wasn't she, of course, before she moved into the coach. Stirling have, they've really brought forward a lot of strong athletes over the years. I remember back at Commonwealth Games in 2006 in Melbourne, working with the Welsh and the Scottish and the Northern Ireland team were working together and having just hearing the sort of things that were going on, how they were working out their programs, how they were progressing.
I imagine they have even more warm weather camps than the GB team with the Scottish weather.
I heard a lovely story about one of the Scottish senior teams who were going down to New Zealand for a major championship. And we'll come back to my Scottish tales when we just have a little bit of a recap on the bike. We were talking about Jeremy Briand. And there's something there with Jeremy. So there's something there with his right foot, whether he's got cramp. I don't know whether he's just loosened out of the shoe, something there. But that clears up the conjecture that we were having, doesn't it, Lucy? How he was doing so well and then just dropped dramatically behind. So the Scottish team who were going down to New Zealand, their flight was delayed 24 hours. The whole of the Scottish team, the 12 that are going down, they upgraded them to first class because they were 24 hours late. Were we jealous? Yes, very.
Wow. Well, these guys have probably never seen the front of an aeroplane before. Yeah, that would be special.
Oh, it's good. Well, just there we are, the face of utter delight with Tom Bishop coming over. Yes, he says, I did it. We did it, there all his teammates are saying. Tom going forward, he knows it's going to be the hugs and the cuddles.
It's days like this that make the winter. I always think the summer's what makes the winter worthwhile. And
well, let's get on with our official results. In first place, Leeds 1 hour 18 minutes and 58 seconds. 41 seconds down, Loughborough 1. In third place, Canada, another 1.5 minutes down. Fourth place, Leeds 2 minutes 06 in arrears. Then the young team from Japan in fifth, Cardiff in sixth. Big performance by Cardiff. GB Juniors in seventh, Australia 8th. Loughborough 2 in 9th place, and the Great Britain under-23s in 10th. So Great Britain under-23s beaten by the Great Britain Juniors. A reflection maybe on the different race distances that they're used to.
very possibly, yeah.
Didn't that gap open up in the second half of it? Just continuing. 11th were Bath, then London, Stirling 1, home team Nottingham, Wales under-23, the youngsters from Germany in 16th, and just a few seconds behind in 17th and final position, Stirling 2.
I think all the youngsters racing, even the ones in the slower team, will have learnt huge amounts from their time out here today, and no doubt it will play a big part in their careers as they get a little bit older and more mature.
I think it was an absolutely fabulous race, Lucy. I mean, it's a big chance for a race organiser to put on something different. You, of course, hope it's all going to go well. You hope it's going to be successful. But city centre races particularly, there's so many other variables. We've been blessed with the weather today. It's been absolutely fantastic. The water conditions have been ideal. We haven't seen any major mechanicals. Don't recall seeing any crashes, anything like that. The crowd have been absolutely superb. Just looking now, they're absolutely enjoying themselves, being really pushed on by the on-site announcers. And you just know that in the athlete area now, everybody from whatever country, whatever training centre, they're all going to be sitting there having a chat. What happened? How did this go? You were racing well. And it's good, and the athletes who are coming back from injury even more so, just being in within that the group dynamics, knowing that this is what I do and I've missed it and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, and I think the teams are just going to get more competitive. I mean, hopefully this event will come back year on year, and I think we'll get more international teams, we'll get a bit more rivalry at the front of the race, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. I think, with all our home teams here, all the training centres represented, you've got to give the kudos to Canada. They're bringing experienced people in, but it's a big commitment for them, and equally to Japan, because they're bringing in a very, very inexperienced team, and we could see right from the start with Fukusaga, this is the distances they're training for. This is what they're working for 3 years next in Tokyo.
Yeah, and I do wonder whether there will be some countries that say, actually, we're just going to throw everything at the relay. We're going to gun for the relay medal, and we're not going to worry about the individual races. And that would be interesting, because it's such short distances. It's a different kind of racing.
I think there are similarities, if you like, with the introduction of pilot athletes, and pilot athletes, what's that? Oh my goodness, triathlon is individual sport. Well, of course it is, but there are teams, and if you're looking to get major medals, and we know that many countries' funding relies on the medals that are gained, then yeah, let's bring in somebody else. We saw that with one of our athletes here today, well, two of our athletes today, Lucy Hall back in 2012, specifically in there for number one, her swim strengths, but also her strength on the bike. And we've seen it going through to an extent, I guess, with Vicky Holland back at the 2012 games. Then of course she comes through and she medals at Rio just last year.
Yeah, and there'll be some countries that have 3 athletes at the Olympics, so they could arguably pick their 3rd athlete either as a pilot for the medal contenders in the Olympic distance race, or they could pick their relay specialist to bump up the relay team. So it'll be interesting. It's certainly going to be very, very exciting watching it in Tokyo, isn't it?
I think so, and I think if there is an opportunity for a relay medal, and the team managers, the committees, the coaches, they're going to look and say, okay, let's be realistic. What are our chances of one individual athlete? And they will know from the times, from the previous season's races, the rankings. They say, you know what, we're not going to do this. Best will in the world, it's not going to happen. We're not going to get a 5-minute gap in one race. But we've got 4 athletes who, if we specifically go for that for the relay, and then we can come away with a medal. Didn't we just see it at the World Track and Field just a couple of weeks ago, with Great Britain just on the last 2 days, relay medal, relay medal, relay medal, relay medal, taking us from 2 to 6.
Yeah, absolutely
wow.
Wonderful. And there'll be some athletes that there's a chance to get 2 medals in the Olympic Games. One athlete get 2 medals. That will be pretty special.
Well, we saw it with Vicky Holland and with Jodie Stimpson at the last Commonwealth Games, with Jonathan and Alistair Brownlee at the last Commonwealth Games. It was great. They took the gold in the relay. Jodie and Alistair taking gold in the individuals, and Vicky the bronze, Jonathan the silver in the individuals. So yes. But of course, and you talk to the athletes. We were talking to Vicky earlier and saying, when you're going into that relay situation, when you're absolutely shattered from the individual event, and that's what I think team managers and federations are going to be looking at for the Olympic Games relay.
Yeah, I think there's a bigger gap, isn't there, than there was. I think there was something like 48 hours in the Commonwealth Games, which is pretty hard, doing a 2-hour race and then doing a sprint 48 hours later. Oof, I wouldn't manage that. And of course we had the amateur triathlon earlier, which was great. What was really nice about that, I don't know if you saw any of it, we saw proper novices on cheap bikes. They didn't have all the gear. It was real kind of grassroots triathlon, and I loved seeing that.
But well, it's just having a replay now on Tom Bishop, and of course we're picking him up at the beginning of the run after he dominated that cycle section. A tiny bit heavy leg going out on the run, but that didn't last long at all. Absolutely extended his lead, and there's the happiness face, the happy face with Tom Bishop leading his Leeds 1 team to victory in this first Accenture British Triathlon Mixed Relay Cup.
He'll be reliving this, I'm sure, over the next few weeks.
Great to see Tom doing so well there.
So I think Tom's actually a local lad, isn't he, originally? Fairly local anyway, and I'm sure he'll have lots of people watching him, being out there supporting. We're just waiting for the medal ceremony, which will be coming on in a few minutes. I imagine the ice cream vans would have been doing a storming sale today. Always a gamble in September.
Yeah, we've been blessed. We've been blessed with the weather, been blessed with the performance. And I guess slight delay, as we might well expect, onto the medal ceremony, with the athletes being extremely fatigued, and of course maybe calling over for whatever various tests are being held. Always that's taken into account.
So obviously the weather's always like this in Nottingham. People just don't realise it. It really is a tropical paradise most of the year.
I'm not sure about that, Lucy. I raced the half Ironman distance at Nottingham Sports Centre several years ago now, it has to be said. It was dire. It was the middle of summer and the water was icy, and we had people trying to go out on the bike, and yeah, so okay, local experience and knowledge, of course, coming from you. But
ladies and gentlemen, the medal ceremony for the Accenture British Triathlon Mixed Relay Cup 2017 Nottingham.
Canadians, I'm sure, will be absolutely delighted to be up there.
Looking at Paula's face, I think she really is going to be so happy to be getting back on the podium.
Look at that smile. It's such an amazing feeling when you've emptied the tank and you've got the results that you've worked so hard for. What's great to see is that all these guys seem to love it, and that's what triathlon's about. It's such a fun sport, and yes, it hurts, but ultimately, if you love it, you'll always get the best out of yourself.
I was going to say 8 Brits and 4 Canadians coming up, and of course it's 7 Brits, 4 Canadians and 1 Australian making up the teams.
Patron of British Triathlon, Professor Sarah Springman, CBE. The gifts will be presented by leader of Nottingham City Council, Councillor John Collins. The winners of the bronze medal, the team from Canada. Represented by Joanna Brown, Matthew Sharp, Paula Finlay, Jeremy Brions. The winners of the silver medal, the team Loughborough 1. Represented by Sophie Caldwell, Chris Perham, Jodie Stimpson, Ben Dykstra.
Hi guys. Nottingham's best teddy bears.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, isn't that lovely with the Robin Hood themed mascots coming in? I loved that appreciation from Jodie Stimpson to how well Sophie Caldwell raced. That was absolutely superb.
Winners of the gold medal, the inaugural champions of the Accenture British Triathlon Mixed Relay Cup 2017, Leeds 1. Represented by Georgia Taylor-Brown, Aaron Royal, Jess Learmonth and Tom Bishop.
Yeah, give it a pop in, thank you.
Well done. There you go, thank you very much. Well done. That was fantastic.
Wow, how lovely to see the such great athletes up there. I think we put all those smiles together, and they will be stretching from Nottingham outskirts right the way through the city centre. Absolutely
Ladies
superb.
and gentlemen,
well,
the
I'm not sure whether
Accenture
Aaron
British
Royal joining in
Triathlon
with the Leeds
Mixed
team,
Relay
if he's going to be
Cup
under pressure
2017
to
Nottingham
maybe look
will
at his
now be presented by
British
Group Technology
representation
Officer,
possibilities. I think not. It's
Accenture,
lovely to have him
Emma
training with
McGuigan.
Leeds.
He could always marry Non and then he'd be sorted, wouldn't he?
Wouldn't dare say that.
You heard it here first.
The champagne will be presented by Chair of British Triathlon,
Big performance by Georgia
Ian
Taylor-Brown.
Howard.
So a lot of responsibility leading off. She did absolutely superbly. Jessica Learmonth, no weakness in any discipline at all now. And of course with Aaron and Tom demonstrating that through. Well-deserved winners, well-executed race, but some great competition.
Yeah, and you just have to wonder, looking at that podium, how many of those will be racing in Tokyo. This is the new generation, isn't it?
Please
up
show
there.
your appreciation
Still
for
got a lot
all of
of
our
the older guys
medalists here
there,
today
but
at the
it's
Accenture
tough being British
Triathlon
athlete in
Mixed
some ways
Relay
because it's so
Cup.
competitive.
It is tough, and with the injuries we've had out with our 3 Olympians from last year. Helen Jenkins having a baby, two injuries with Vicky and Non. Jodie Stimpson, so unlucky not to go an injury again. And then they're going to be joined by Sophie, joined by Georgia, by Jessica, by Lucy. Strength in depth is absolutely superb. Multi-podiums at European and world level, right across the age groups. We look at the men, Johnny and Alistair Brownlee. So, really good. Great to see Ben Dixter coming through. Overall, an absolutely superb competition. I'm delighted for the race organisers. I'm delighted for the city of Nottingham. I'm delighted for triathlon. Lucy, it's been tremendous performances right the way through, hasn't it?
Oh, we couldn't have really asked for a better staging in the first event. Absolutely brilliant. I'm sure this will just get better and better year on year.
We hope you enjoyed it. From Lucy Gossage and from Steve True, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.
All of the support, all of the coaches, all of everybody has come together to make this event happen. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy to be part of it. If you are about to head home, please make sure